we have your weekend Apple news. Welcome back to the channel. So here we go again. It's the weekend, and what do we do on the weekends? We go through the Apple news. I'm going to go through about 20 or 25 different Apple-related news stories. I'm going to go through some sales, but since Prime Days was last week and I did about 120 different products then, I only have a few right now, but I'm going to put in a couple Mac sales in here as well. Usually on the weekends, we have some fun. I have a beer. Today I have a 3 Floyd's Deluxe Lager here from Indiana. Really good microbrewery if you've never heard of them before, actually. So sit back and relax, and let's get into these crazy news stories from Apple. We got you. The weekend Apple news. Okay, story number 1 is going to make more sense as I expand this, so hold on one second. Here we go right here. Apple planning new Mac external display. That's good news. MacBooks, iPads, and more for early 2026. So let's just kind of scroll down here. It says, here's what Bloomberg says is in the works for the first half of 2026. New MacBook Pro powered by the M5 chip. Now, hold on one second, right? I think I just did a couple of, maybe last week or the week before, we talked about the M5s coming out this year. Things are slowly changing here. This is kind of bad news for a lot of people, but hold on, we're going to come back to this in a second. The new iPad Air powered by the M4 chip, that's going to actually be next year, so the iPad Air, that's going to be early 2026. New entry-level iPad, so that'll be, I guess, the 12th generation iPad, early 2026. New MacBook Air, again, scratching in my head, 2026. The iPhone 17e, we knew that's coming out later with the A19 chip. And then here we go, new Mac external monitors. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. And then we're going to come back to those MacBook Pros because I thought they were coming out this year. Okay, first things for this actual studio display. Now, we're not getting a ton of details on it, but we're starting to see this kind of, this picture become clear. It's definitely, I think, coming out in 2026. Here we go. This is Mac Rumors again. Apple Studio Display successor now expected early next year. That's actually good news. Apple plans to release the next generation Studio Display or equivalent replacement. This is again by Mark Gurman. He's pretty much the only person that's giving these rumors. And you can, as we're slowly finding out, they're wrong a lot of times. So let's just kind of scroll down here. He says in the latest report, Apple's product roadmap for 2026, not 2025, Gurman said that the company is planning to launch the first new Mac external monitor since the debuting of Apple Studio Display in 2022. So it's codenamed J427, and it's slated for early 2026. So there you go. We know that actually this makes a lot of sense now. It's starting, as you see more and more rumors come out as we get closer to that date, they're usually getting a little bit more accurate because before they were just kind of spitting things out. So, but what could this possibly be? There's still not a lot of information on it. I mean, it basically goes on to say Gurman has not revealed the new features like I just mentioned or changes to the Apple Studio Display because he doesn't know. However, it says display industry analyst Ross Young in January said that Apple's developing a new 27-inch display with mini LEDs. We think it's going to have, ProMotion, but it's only going to be 27 inches supposedly, not 32. And, it's not going to be OLED either. So this is kind of, I don't know if this is good or bad news. As long as the price drops on the other one, let's say the price drops on the original Studio Display like to $899. This one's maybe $14.99 or whatever. I'll take that. I'll take anything that Apple gives us at this point. They need to make more monitors. Okay, so here's the bad news actually. Now, don't hold me responsible. I'm just reporting these guys' rumors. They're wrong a lot. This keeps changing day to day, but this is the latest news right here. This is a rumor, of course. It says Mac Rumors. OLED MacBook Pro may not launch next year after all. So long story short, we thought that an OLED MacBook Pro was going to launch next year in 2026. Why wouldn't that be the case any longer? Well, it says right over here, according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman, Apple is rethinking its original plan to basically refresh the MacBook Pro lineup with the M5 chips later this year. Instead, the refreshed M5 models offering only a small performance boost are now expected to arrive in the first half of 2026. So for some reason, it's looking like he's getting data on this that Apple's going to, they're going to kind of basically push this to early 2026 for the M5 Airs and the M5 MacBook Pros. And then it might be early 2027 for the OLED. So why would they be doing this? Is it because they don't have, the OLEDs ready yet? They don't have all these different changes ready yet? Because if you kind of scroll down here, the ones that were going to be coming out after the M5s, the M6s MacBook Pros, they were going to have all of this stuff, supposedly. OLED displays, thinner, lighter laptop, completely new design, punch hole camera, completely new, 5G modem, completely new. It's going to be kind of the C1 modem, but it's going to be an upgrade of that. M6 series chips, and this is going to be 2-nanometer process. So if all those things don't come together, obviously things can get pushed. right now, with the rumors, don't kill the messenger. It's looking like this is what's happening. They're kind of slowly pushing it away. We'll kind of cover this over the next couple of weeks or so, see if this is right. But this is bad news for everybody. If you're actually waiting for the M5, you may be waiting like another 4 or 5 months. Cheers, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. I think I need to take a sip after that report there, right? Okay, I have a couple sales here. Again, I got all these sales were last week with the Prime Days and stuff, so I only got a couple this week. Take a look over here. We got the Apple Mac Studio. I got a new player here. This is from OWC. They're selling this. Obviously, this is going to be, I believe, refurbished right here, but this is going to be the M2 Max chip here, 30-core GPU, 12-core CPU. 32 gigs of RAM, 512GB SSD here for $12.19. Obviously, that's shipped at $19.99. So obviously, it's the M2 Max chip. And again, I compare that with like the current M4 chip. It's the Max chip, so you're really getting 30 GPU cores, which is actually pretty good. And the speed of it, now you're going to get a little bit slower single core there. Obviously, single core scores a little bit faster, I think, on the multi-core. But overall, it's going to be, it depends what you're doing with it, to tell you the truth, obviously. So I think that's a pretty good cost for this, though. I mean, I would like to see this maybe a little bit cheaper. So let's go to the next one. So something like this might be worth it. If you just want to go bottom barrel, you want to actually get your hands on a Studio, take a look at this. Apple Mac Studio here. This one's going to be basically the M1 Max. So you have to go all the way back to the M1. 32 gigs of memory, 512GB SSD. This is down to $9.99. This is from OWC as well. You can see that the pricing is kind of, I don't think it's going to get too much lower. As the years go on and stuff, obviously these will drop. But right now, I think this is the lowest Studio you can get. I mean, there's some better deals out there. You guys tell me, would you pick one of these up for $9.99? Is it worth it over like the M4 Pro one? I actually have the M4 Pro Mac Mini over there, and it was on sale at Micro Center for $999, which is the same as this. So I don't know yet. I mean, you get an SD card reader, you get a little bit more GPU cores, but who knows? But let's keep moving. Okay, we got another sale here. This one's from Micro Center. Take a look over here. This is the Apple MacBook Pro. It's going to be in early 2023. Now, this is certified refurbished, all right? These are great quality when they're certified from Micro Center. This is the M2 Max, all right? So it's a Pro, 14-inch Pro, but M2 Max, great chip, 96 gigs of RAM, 512GB SSD. That configuration is not even really possible right now. It's so weird, like how they sell these weird configurations. I mean, only 512GB SSD, but 96 gigs of RAM. 1862 right now. It's way more than this. I mean, originally this was like $4,000, but they're saying it's $430 off the refurbished price right now for this price right here. And just to kind of prove that to you, if I was to go to Apple's website, now this is the Max chip, 96 gigs of RAM. But if I was to go to, and obviously this is the M4 Max. I mean, we can't compare this to that, obviously. But this one has 64 gigs, not 96 gigs, and a little bit bigger SSD because I can't even get a smaller SSD. But look at the price on this, $38.99. So if you increase the SSD here to 96, we'd be around $4,100 usually. So you could pick up an M2 Max for less than half that. So you got to weigh the equation there. Is it worth it to you or not? I think it is. I mean, I think that's more powerful than most people need anyway. But you guys can do your own math and tell me in the comments. Now, we speak a lot about artificial intelligence on this channel, and things are changing so quickly. We have no idea what it's going to mean for like my video editing job here, doing my YouTube channel. Is it going to just be AI or your jobs out there? So it's kind of scary, but one thing that's going to happen really quickly is search engines right here. 9 to 5 Mac. It says OpenAI is launching its own AI-centric web browser very soon per the report, and you can see it right over here. So we're going to kind of scroll down here. It says Google Chrome has long dominated the web browser space, despite many Apple users opting to stick with Safari. But a major new player is reportedly about to launch its own web browser, OpenAI, right here. OpenAI is close to releasing the AI-powered web browser, and they're saying it's only a couple weeks, that will challenge Alphabet's market-dominating Google Chrome. So here we go. I mean, they're going to incorporate this in, but it's not just the search engine. It's not just the browser. It's going to be the search engine. It says the browser is slated to launch in the coming weeks. Three people have said that basically, and aims to use artificial intelligence to fundamentally change how consumers browse the web. This is the part that's unknown because obviously all the fees coming into people that do advertising. How is this going to work? It says OpenAI's browser is designed to keep some user interactions within ChatGPT-like native chat interface instead of clicking through to the websites. So that's what I'm thinking of. Obviously, if you go to ChatGPT now, you query something and you get an answer. You're not going off to a website most of the time. They're going to incorporate this in there. It says a web browser would allow OpenAI to directly integrate its AI agent products such as Operator into the browsing experience, enabling the browser to carry out tasks on behalf of the user. So This is the kind of thing that it gets me a little bit scared here, because obviously things are changing so fast that Google has the dominance with all of, YouTube especially paying advertisers, paying all. And this is going to change really quickly with this, because of the fact that people, like my mother or people's mothers out there, people in their 70s, 60s, 80s, all over the place, right? They're not really using ChatGPT right now because they don't even know it even exists. They use Google. But as soon as this becomes mainstream and as soon as Google starts, incorporating it fully, and they've already done it kind of, we know that, right? Obviously, they're using Gemini in their search engine now. But as soon as it gets replaced with everything, they're going to realize, this is way better than before, and they're going to start using it. But it's just unknown how they're going to pay advertisers. This was got me a little bit worried here. Post in the comments. So you guys, how do you think this is going to be? How do you think this is going to change the future of kind of web browsing and search engines and stuff like that? I think it's going to be kind of massive, right? I think players can get replaced here, and that's a little bit scary when you work kind of for YouTube. Okay, for this next article over here, I think a lot of you people watching are going to remember this because I don't get a lot of 20-year-olds watching this channel. It's usually 30 and up. So let's take a look over here. Mac Rumors. It says Apple in the 1990s. Here's a look back at 5 quirky and unique products. If you remember 1990s, obviously, Apple came out with some really kind of weird products back then. A lot of people don't even know these existed. So let's kind of scroll down here. The first one here is called the Quick Take. Look at this. This is a 1994. Apple released the Quick Take, one of the first consumer-oriented digital cameras ever. And it took, what does it take here? It took photos of 640 by 480. I guess it had a different one down here that took a little bit better, 1024 by 768. So obviously that's pretty good for the time. I think I remember when these came out, only rich people could afford them. They were very, very expensive. And I think I was actually in the 1990s, you kind of almost went, I was out of high school back then, but I mean, even then you're taking film school classes and college and stuff. So, and then this thing comes out, right? Second thing here is the Newton eMate 300. This is by Apple as well. If you notice the design language in here, it looks very similar, right, to those first iMacs and stuff with the colors. This was 1993, Newton Message Pad, a personal digital assistant, PDA, and that's there it is right there. And it had a resolution of 480 by 320 pixels. Other specs is 25 megahertz ARM processor and a 3 megabytes of RAM. Not 3 gigabytes, 3 megabytes of RAM. Imagine that right there. That's 1993. So the next thing over here, look at this Studio Display. You might be thinking that it just released the Studio Display 3 years ago, but it's first used the name for an external monitor way back in 1998. This is the first Studio Display. Take a look at it. 15-inch flat panel, which is, it was huge back then. A flat panel like this, imagine that. It had a resolution of 1024 by 768, and it says it's a far cry over here. It was priced at $2,000 for that, just because it was so thin. $2,000 for that. So Apple's actually going down in price on its newest one, which is crazy. This other one I didn't. Tell me if you remember this. I don't remember this one. Style Writer here. Printers were another device category, basically, that they got into. It looks like this was based. Let me just see here. Image Writer in 1982, the Laser Writer in 1985, and then finally the Style Writer in 1991. So this was 1991. I don't remember this specific one. I don't remember that name at all, but if you guys do, post in it. And then this one, I do actually remember looking, I don't remember it back then, but I remember researching this before a long time ago. The Pippin. Do you believe this? Believe it or not, Apple once made a video game console, and this was actually on, I believe, Linus Tech Tips. If you actually search for his channel, he did a whole video on this because they bought one. I don't know where they found it. You'd think it would be worth a lot of money, but back then it was at $599, and that's pretty crazy, right? I don't think it gives a date in here. So, long story short, what are you going to do, right? It's kind of like a blast back in memory lane there, and it makes me feel a little old though. Okay, we talked about this just a couple minutes ago, but just to kind of reiterate it because it's kind of important here, if you're waiting for this, Mac Rumors, Apple to launch new low-cost 11-inch iPad. So it's going to basically be the same iPad as I have sitting on my desk over here, and I can't get to it because my microphone's going to make a huge sound here, but sitting right over here, right? And that's obviously, this is going to be the 12th generation. I was excited to think maybe they're going to make something even cheaper, me, but it's not the case. But the weird thing here is it says Apple is said to have 2 new versions of entry-level 11-inch iPad coming in development. Only 2 versions, codenamed the J581 and the J582. This is the weird part, right? It says these could refer to different storage options, in which case Apple may be planning to drop the existing lowest capacity one. So they have right now 128 gigs, 256, and 512. They're thinking that it's only going to be 256 and 512. Now that's actually good news, right? That means that Apple has to be increasing everything. Maybe Macs will get 512 starting as well. These will go up to 256 on the iPads, at least the cheap iPads. So we're moving in the right direction. I hope that's true. That would be good news. Okay, for this next one here, if you're waiting to buy the iPhone 17 possibly, or just waiting to see how it's going to be, make your decision, here's some more information for you right here, Mac Rumors. iPhone 17 RAM, how much to expect for each model. So we know this is coming out soon. This should be coming out at the end of the year. We know that. All right, because it's their biggest seller. And this is the iPhone 16 RAM over here. Here's the iPhone 17. The only big change here is the base model. See this? It's going from 8 to 8 supposedly. We thought this was going to go to 12 for sure. Everyone right now is reporting it's going to stay at 8. But the Air, the Pro, and the Pro Max are all going to go to 12, which is plus 4 gigabytes here. Now, is this set in stone with these guys? You never know, right? It could switch anytime, but like I said, as we get closer, they usually get more leaks and better information. So I'm starting to think this is true for all it's worth. So they need to separate that base level, and that's how they're going to probably do it. So if you're going to be buying that new iPhone 17, you want to know the colors, right? That's the most important thing with the phone, right? Even though you put a case on it. Anyways, people like to know. Here we go, Mac Rumors. iPhone 17 and iPhone 17 Air rumored to come in these 9 colors. You can see in here, so let's just kind of go down here. According to leaker by the account name, again, you take it with a grain of salt, he says manufacturers are now producing camera protector rings for the iPhone 17 and the iPhone 17 Air in colors that match their finishes upon release. So he's got information based on that. The iPhone 17 will basically come in black, silver, blue, green, and purple. And that lines up with earlier reports. He says it's also testing a green and purple color options for the iPhone 17, which would be right here. So I guess we're getting these, which I don't know what the color this is. Tell me if you know what this color is. This is kind of a whiter silver. This is the blackish silver. Here's the blue. I don't know what that is. Peach. And then over here we got these 2 colors, which possibly they're saying rumors. And then down here the Air. So it says the 17 Air will basically be available in black, silver, gold, and blue. And the blue is kind of a weird one there, but black, silver, gold are pretty standard. This collaborates with previous rumors as well. So you get the idea. So if you're thinking about buying this phone, I just want to give you an idea of the colors, because when you cover it up with that phone case, you still want to know what's underneath it. Okay, so you know what Apple's coming out with this liquid glass design language, but they've been listening, and all these different betas that are coming out, they keep making changes because people are complaining they can't see certain things. And it's making sense here. Take a look, Mac Rumors. iOS 26 liquid glass design drama, beta 2 versus beta 3 changes. So people are complaining, and Apple's making some changes between beta 2 and beta 3. What are they? For instance, Apple Music. You can see that here it's more see-through, and over here they made it more opaque or whatever. And I don't know if that's the right word, but there's a color behind it, so you can see that the buttons pop better. See that? How this gets kind of more lost. If you kind of scroll down, this one's a little kind of almost reversed there, but I guess they made this darker, and this is more see-through right here. So you can see the idea. So people were complaining. Here's a very obvious one you get here. You can see that you can see right through this button, but they made it almost like this. So it's kind of defeating the purpose, right, of this whole glass image, because it was supposed to be glass. You can look through it. Now they're kind of making it like this, where it's kind of going back to the original, right? So it's interesting to me. And let me scroll on and see if I can find a couple other ones. Let me see some. Here's a good one example right here. You can see in here, look at this. You can barely see this behind here. That was in beta 2, and now in beta 3, they completely changed it. They made it a little bit more white in the background so the buttons pop. And it just goes on and on. I mean, there's differences here where they actually made this one darker in the background so you can see the buttons. Here you can actually see the pebbles a little bit more in the background. And, same thing over here. This is more whitish. This is more blackish this time. So I don't know why they're doing it this. This is almost going against what I was just saying. But I guess this is a little bit easier. I guess it's easier to pick up here because you can see at the bottom of the screen, you can see this numbering or these words down here a little bit better. You can see over here. I get the idea now. So long story short is they're listening to people as they kind of evolve this. But it's going slowly further away from kind of the original product, which is the glass
look of everything, all right? And they're making other changes as well, which is kind of weird. This is from 9 to 5 Mac. It says Mac OS Tahoe 26 Beta 3 makes tabs less confusing. So what they did here is people were complaining about this. Here's beta, I guess it's beta 2 here. And you can see that they did this so that see the tabs up here. So this middle tab is the tab that you're actually on. And they put these lines here under the tabs that basically are inactive. See that? These like black lines. So then they switched it to this because people were complaining. They said that they thought it was hard here to tell what page you were on. They were thinking that the black line meant you were on that page, not the non-black line. If you can see, there's no black line here, where it was actually the exact opposite. So Apple came back and did it this way, which I think is a lot easier. Take a look at this. So you can see that you're definitely on this page here and you're not on these two pages because this is actually lit up. Here it's a little bit more confusing, but these are just small tweaks. So they went through all this planning, all these millions of dollars, and then they get a couple kind of comments from these developers and they switch it kind of right back, which is interesting, I guess. At least they're listening, I guess, and I do think it's better. So for all of us, I think it's a good thing overall. Okay, this next product's just a sale going on, and I don't know if it's going to stay on sale because it's a Prime Day sale. By the time you watch this, it probably won't be, but I recommend this product, and I'll tell you why. Take a look over here. This is the Orico hard drive case, 3.5-inch, 20-bay multimedia protection. So you can see it's just basically a hard case here. It's on sale for $79.99. So why do I like this thing so much? Take a look in here. Well, here you go. You can put in all your SSDs in here. I have something similar to this, and it's basically I can cut out the pieces and I put in 2.5-inch drives as well, or 3.5 inches. So what you want to do is if you do backup data, a lot of stuff like that, and let's say you have let's say your mother or your brother or someone that has a different house in a different location. If you want to back up your data here and you want to move it over to their house, get one of these things. It's easily, you can stack everything in here. It's basically going to protect it from all the elements, rain and everything like that, and then move it to someone else's house. Your family member, put it in their basement high up in case of a flood or something, and you get the idea, and it's protected, right? And then you have your data securely safe somewhere. This is also good. I mean, I like these things because I used to work in a data center for 26 years, and we use these a lot as well. So just something kind of you don't think of that often that's out there for $79. And obviously you can cut this thing out and you can use it for a whole bunch of things like cameras and everything else. But I think this is a fair price for what it is. Okay, we're back to the iPhone 17 Air. We just have a couple pictures that came out, some leaks and stuff. These are just kind of they're not the actual phone, but these are kind of pieces that people are using for the cases and stuff. So here we are, 9 to 5 Mac, new hands-on iPhone 17 Air video reveals dummy and sleek black finish. So you can kind of see what it's going to look like here. Now it's really thin, you can barely tell here. And again, it's going to have the glass here. So this is the black color, and you can see the camera orientation up here. So it says it's ultra thin. Let's just see. I mean, this is not much of a difference down here. I'm not going to play the video. I just don't want to, I'll give this guy credit here. You can go ahead and check it out if you want to look for his name there. iPhone 17 in black looks so good. But I mean, the question to me is like this. So you buy this phone, you spend, it's going to be probably more expensive. It's ultra thin, right? But then again, you put a case on it, right? And then let's say you go out and buy a case that's maybe a 2 millimeters thicker or something than the case somebody else has. And all of a sudden your phone's the same size as the original. Okay, a while back I did a whole video on basically the new affordable MacBook coming out. I think it's going to be around $699 or $599 starting price. People are saying it might be more. That's besides the point. We're getting more and more articles, and we think it's almost, about 80% right now. Right over here, Apple Insider. But I want to talk about the speed here. So it says Apple's upcoming low-cost MacBook, colorful and affordable. And then they show something that's not colorful here. So I'm not sure what picture that is, but anyways, you get the idea. Use some AI in that. The thing I wanted to show you in this article over here was just the speed difference. I talked about this before, but sometimes graphs are better visually. Again, this is from Apple Insider. But here we go. This is Geekbench multi-core benchmarks. So here's your M1 chip. Here's the A18 Pro. So this is what would be going into the system right here, the A18 Pro. As you can see, then multi-core, it actually beats the M1 chip. Now, it's going to be quite a bit slower than the M4 chip. But for most things people do, it's going to obviously, this is going to be for more like video editing and stuff. But I think this is sufficient because the M1 was. So this is faster than the M1 here. Now, if you scroll down to here, single core benchmarks, this is where it gets, obviously a lot faster. And this is the key here. So let's take a look at this. So we got the M1 here, 2,360. Then we got the A18, 3,429. Look at that difference. This thing actually on single core A18 Pro is almost as fast is the M4. Take a look at that. That's what I wanted to show you last time. So this is where most people do all of their work, right? This is going to be just basic stuff, spreadsheets, browsing, all that kind of stuff, single core stuff. And you're almost as fast as the M4 here. And we go back over here, we're faster than the M1 on multi-core. Obviously, we're getting blown away by the M4 on multi-core, but you get the idea. I think this is a perfect chip for what this is, right? It's perfect because the M1 it's fast enough for almost, people that bought an M1 weren't really doing high-end video editing anyway. They don't need multi-core, but the single core is just whips, right? So you guys post. I don't think there's a better chip for this product as long as the price is $699 or lower. Okay, if you're like me and you like saving money, right? You just like to know that things are available, some options out there. Here we go, Mac rumors. IKEA goes all in on Matter for Apple HomeKit compatibility. IKEA plans to overhaul its smart home lineup with full Matter support, making its budget-friendly products compatible with Apple Home and other ecosystems without basically requiring the company's own hub. So you don't need to get their hub. It's going to be fully compatible with all of Apple's stuff. And this is going to be from IKEA. So it's starting in January 2026. The Swedish furniture giant will release more than 20 new Matter over-thread smart lights, sensors, and remotes. The products will work directly with Apple Home, Amazon Alexa, Google Home, you get the idea, Samsung, and basically, it'll start under $10. So you're going to get a whole bunch of over 20 different devices through IKEA that's going to work with Apple's Home. And we figured the whole Apple ecosystem of the whole home ecosystem mouthful, is going to be coming out in 2026 as well. And they're still waiting on the new device. They're still waiting for Apple Intelligence to get solved. And once it's all solved, they're going to come out with that device. So this is kind of perfect timing. Maybe even be a little bit early because they're probably going to beat Apple to the punch. But still, pretty good idea, and it's going to save you money. This next product here is kind of cool, just kind of reporting on it here. I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's coming out, but it is going to be patented, I think. Right over here, Mac Rumors. It says next-gen Apple Pencil would work on any surface. Apple has been granted a patent for a next-generation Apple Pencil that uses its optical sensors to work across a wide range of surfaces, including devices such as the iPhone, the MacBook Pro, and the Apple Watch. Think about that for a second. You could actually write on the MacBook Pro. So maybe Apple won't go like to a full touchscreen, but maybe you'll have to buy their pen or something so that's what I'm guessing. Maybe they'll get around it being a full touchscreen, but you have to buy a pen like that. It'll work somehow on it. I don't know how it's going to work. There's going to maybe be some technology in there that lets it do it. So it says the United States Patent and Trademark Office this week granted Apple this filing here. And so it's in the works. It's actually a patent right now. It says the pencil would analyze the light data to determine characteristics of the movement, including direction, speed, tilt angle, and rotational orientation, without requiring direct contact with a touch-sensitive display. Which is crazy, right? So I mean, I guess that's saying you wouldn't even touch the Mac screen. I don't know. More details has to come out. Beyond drawing, the patent envisions broader use cases in addition to supporting sketching, writing, and gesture input. Apple Pencil could act as a spatial controller for system-level actions. So maybe you can stand away from it and use it as a kind of a pointer, maybe a mouse or something. More will come out on this as we see it. It's still going to be, they say, maybe a year or two away, but the patent's out on it. Kind of an interesting product. You know, do people just rather have a touchscreen? I don't know. You guys tell me. Okay, I just wanted to show you a quick comparison of this because I get asked this like a lot of times. People always say, should I buy this? Should I buy this? Well, here's some good data. Apple Insider. The M4 Max Mac Studio versus the M1 Ultra Mac Studio. So let's say you wanted to go buy a brand new M4 Mac Studio or an M1 Ultra Mac Studio from a long time ago and you wanted to save some money. How do they compare against each other? So we're going to kind of scroll all the way down to where we want to get to, which is going to be the Geekbench scores here. Let's take a look here. So the M1 Ultra, the big difference here is this is going to be the M1 Ultra on single core Geekbench. This is the big problem. You're going to see it's 2396, so it's going to be quite a bit slower than the M4 Max or the M4 Max. This is the 14 core versus the 16 core. Let's just use this one here. But we're going to see that's a pretty big difference, all right? So there you go. But if you go down here, this is going to be Geekbench multi-core benchmarks. And look at this. So on multi-core, again, it's a little bit slower. See that? It's not much, but it's going to be a little bit slower. Still, 18,000 is a big number. So, this gives you an idea. If you're thinking about buying any of these M4 Maxes versus the M1 Ultra, you can see the difference here. Take a look at it right there. So, I mean, these two are not that far apart. Up here, it's you're going to definitely notice some of a difference here, obviously. This is going to be like, what, 50, 60% difference there. But then down here, it gets more interesting. The Geekbench Metal scores, this actually beats the M4 Max. Look at that. So the M1 Ultra, because of those GPU cores, it's actually beating this one down here. So this will be good for gaming or like those kind of, any type of games and stuff like that. This could do really well with. So you get the idea. I just wanted to showcase that because a lot of times, again, visuals help people when they're trying to visualize how fast is this compared to that. Well, there you go. I mean, that's how it kind of stepped up from the M1. Okay, this next one's just some Apple news here. If you haven't heard this before, because I just found out about it myself. Apple Insider. Apple COO Jeff Williams retiring later in 2025. He's replaced by SVP Sabit Khan. I don't know if I said that guy's name right. Doesn't matter to me, but if it isn't, you guys will tell me. It says Jeff Williams has been Apple's chief operating officer since 2010, but he's begun his retirement process and will be passing the reins to Sabit Khan. I guess Sabit? I guess that's the right name, right? Rumors have been swirling about this. Long story short, this is the guy over here retiring. They're going to be passing the reins over to this guy. For all it's worth, what does that mean? I don't know. But for people out there like you guys, I'm sure you guys have an answer. Put it in the comments. Okay, for this next one, I'm going to take a quick sip because this gets me just crazy upset. I'll tell you in a second. But before I do that, this begs the question, how much is somebody worth like at a company? Can they really be worth like $200 million? Or is the next guy that's just almost as good as them, which you could pay 10 times less, is he just as good, right? I mean, why do they pay these people so much? You're going to see this. Hold on. Right here, Apple Insider. Meta lured AI executive away from Apple with blockbuster $200 million pay package. We scroll down here. Meta's poaching of a top Apple intelligence executive. Again, this is not like Tim Cook. This is the top Apple intelligence executive, or a top one, not the top, a top one, has been a costly exercise, with the social giant doling out $200 million for the worker. So it says, according to Bloomberg, Pang will be paid more than $200 million across several years, conditions permitting. But long story short, this guy is just one worker at Apple out of tens of thousands. Obviously, he's probably smart at what he does. He's probably got some good inside information, but I can guarantee he's not doing everything, right? Meta is willing to spend $200 million to poach him away from Apple. And then this guy's got to produce. Is he going to bring that much back to Meta? I mean, is one person worth that much? It's just a question I've always asked myself. I don't know. I mean, it's just such a crazy thing. When you hear these things and you work like tooth and nail your whole life for 20, 30, 40 years, you have some money in the bank, and then you hear these guys get $200 million just to move companies. Doesn't it make you want to take a sip? Okay, we got a new feature here on your AirPods. Pretty good feature too, right here, 9 to 5 Mac. It says your AirPods case will never run out of battery again, thanks to these new charging reminders. So what this basically means is it's going to come up on your phone saying it's time to charge, basically, your name's AirPods, right? You're going to say, well, that's not that, if I have my AirPods in, I can already see the kind of the health of them. Well, this is a new notification that's going to go on your iPhone. And again, this is going to be from iOS 26 later this year. It says right down here, your iPads are getting this even better in iOS 26. But it's going to actually be, if your AirPods are sitting somewhere else, like somewhere downstairs or something, it's still going to come up on your phone that they've slowly ran out of juice, so that next time you want to pick them up and put them in your ears, you'll actually know that. So you're not, how many times have you picked up your earpods and they've dwindled down in battery? You put them in and they last 2 seconds. Well, here you're going to get a notification that they've dwindled down, and you have to basically charge them so that you remember. Not a huge change, right? But something I think that's positive. Okay, so we have a couple new games coming to the Apple Arcade, and there's just one I'm excited about. The other ones are kind of crazy. So take a look at my screen. Mac Rumors. It says these 4 games are coming to Apple Arcade. I keep kind of saying every week we talk about new games coming. It's only $6.99, so definitely subscribe to that. I mean, it's a really good deal. But what they're getting here is, let's kind of scroll down here actually. The first game here is Play-Doh World. Again, if you have kids and stuff, that's for them. It's not for us, right? So I'm not going to worry about that game. I would never play that. There's also a game in here called Let's Go Mighty Cat, and then Everybody Shogu. These are other kind of crazy games. I can go ahead and click on them and just show you, but they're just really kind of like, this one's like a Japanese game, I think. Actually, let me just get in here. Everybody Shogu, casual Japanese chess game. Actually, that might be fun, believe it or not. It just looks kind of crazy. I'm not sure I would understand it too well, but you get the idea. It's sitting right here. So that doesn't get me too excited, but the one game in here that does, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it right now, is the game right here. And this is the game that when I was, again, in the 90s and I guess 2000s, this game came out originally. It's called Worms Across Worlds. So if you ever played the game Worms, let me see if I can get down here to the other game. Worms is like one of the funnest games ever. So you basically have all these different worms here, and they have kind of hit points on them. See this? And then you can actually have, everyone's got a turn where you try to, chip away at these other guys. So you can launch missiles at them. You can chip away the rocks that they're standing on. And the idea is to kind of kill off all of the other team, all the other worms here. So as you kind of go through this game was huge. You can see here's an example where you're shooting things, and it's showing you the minus the hit points. Long story short, tell me if you guys remember this game. I love this game. It was a really fun game because it was one of those games where the whole world was destructive, and you can go anywhere you want in there. You make your little moves, and then you can kind of chip away at the guy, and then he'd fall down, and then you could actually shoot him. Really cool stuff as far as the game's concerned. And it's a really simple game, but it's just one of those games that it brings back memories. Tell me if you guys remember Worms. I love the game. All right, some other news here. Now, I've talked about this many times. Apple should just buy companies for Apple Intelligence and things like that, and they slowly are doing it. Right here, Apple Insider. Apple buys 2 firms to improve Apple Intelligence, and then the Apple Vision Pro. You can see it right here. Let's kind of scroll down here. So one of them is called True Meeting, which lets users scan their faces for their iPhones and can produce AI avatar images. Long story short, if you haven't noticed lately, if you put on the Vision Pros and stuff, the new avatars have gotten way better this year. They think it's because they bought this company. It got the avatars way better as far as the people's face recognition, and it made them look just like the real people. And that's one case where it worked perfectly because it's way better right now than when it was before. And then the second one's even more important. It says around the same time, Apple also bought Y Labs, which is concerned with monitoring AI large language models, ultimately preventing hallucinations. And it does it through that of tracking what the company describes on its still active official website as drift and performance degradations. And this drift right here is the exact words that Tim Cook and some of the other Apple executives used a couple weeks ago. They said that their system was hallucinating. They were trying to solve that. Here's a company that they bought that really specializes in that. So I think they're moving closer and closer, and this is all they got to do. They got more money than money that's out there, right? They got more money than all the gold in the world, and they should just be buying these companies, and we should have the best AI experience of all. Okay, so if you use Apple Maps, there's a new thing coming, actually in the new map update here. I think it's actually really useful. Take a look here. 9 to 5 Mac. Apple Maps in iOS 26 gains the proactive feature I've long needed. See it right here? You can kind of see a little map feature here. So we're going to scroll down here. It says basically the map learns the routes you travel regularly and can alert you of significant delays even before you head out. If your route changes, iPhone adapts to you so you can conquer your commute. So basically what this means, the main difference here is it knows where you're going to be going based on your times and stuff. Let's say you go to work every day, or let's say you go somewhere else like on a Friday. It's going to know that, and it's going to look at those routes before you actually get in your car, and it's going to say, listen, there's a lot of construction. Next time you go this route, you may want to take this route instead. It's actually kind of ingenious, right? And it's actually going to be built into the maps here, Apple Maps in iOS 26. So I just wanted to kind of report on that because I think that's going to be a feature a lot of people will actually use. Okay, since we've been talking about the iPhone 17 Air, I have one thing here to add to it actually that I've just learned right here from Mac Rumors. It says the iPhone 17 Air now is said to feature the A19 Pro chip with one limitation. So what's the limitation that's going to be going on this Air? It might be because of like the thermal cooling and having, the battery life and stuff. It says in a post this week, the leaker said that the A19 Pro chip will have a 6-core GPU in the iPhone 17 Pro and the iPhone 17 Max, but only a 5-core GPU in the iPhone 17 Air. So long story short, it's going to have one less GPU cores. They're saying that that's not going to be a huge difference for most consumers, but if you're a gamer, maybe really it's not going to be that much of a difference. But it's going from basically six GPU cores on the Pro versions to 5. And I'm guessing that's because of the battery or the cooling or one reason or another because of the size of that, how thin it is. But that's what it's going to be. It looks like, again, it's a rumor, but it's kind of looking that way. Okay, so I don't know if you knew this, but on your iPhone, you can open up certain locks, your car basically, the locks in your car actually start your car sometimes. But what cars actually can use this feature? Take a look over here from Mac Rumors. It says which basically vehicles offer iPhone car keys. You can see it right here. So here's your iPhone. You basically can unlock your doors, start your car with it. But what are the vehicles that can actually do this? So if you're thinking about a vehicle, what are they, right? I'm just going to go through these really quickly, and let's just kind of start with, we have Audis here. You can go ahead and pause this screen if you want to take a look at it, but it's basically going to be Audis and BMWs of these dates here. I'm not going to go through all of them because that'll take forever. We got the Minis in here, which is actually part of BMW. You can see it right there. We have the Hyundais as well here, so if you want to get a Hyundai. We have the Kias right in through here. We have Genesis, which is basically Hyundai. Then we have Mercedes-Benz, Polestar, Ram, Volvo, and Lotus. That wraps up the final ones. So if you're looking for this feature, you can pause it there and see if your next car might have it. Okay, Apple just announced something. So if you want to trade in a phone now, Apple's accepting a couple phones that are not Apple phones now. What are those phones? Mac Rumors. Apple now accepting 3 new Android devices for trade-in right here. So what are they? The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. You're going to get up to $405 on that. Samsung Galaxy S24 up to $290. Google Pixel 8 Pro up to $205. So now these extra 3 phones, if you have them right here, you can go ahead and trade them into Apple, and then you can get kind of a trade-up cost. Obviously you can add that to take off the cost of the iPhone. So at least it's something. We're getting some more phones in that mix, but nothing huge to report here. Okay, we got one story here now. This is going to be from Mac Rumors. This is going to be the support that Apple's going to be giving you in the future. I knew everything is going this direction. Here's some proof on it. Mac Rumors says Apple working on ChatGPT-style AI assistant for customer support. So I read through this whole thing. It says basically once you get into Siri, you go into Siri and you're going to be able to just get any type of tech support through an AI assistant. And it's saying in the article, I don't know if this is true, that it's going to make you do that first, and then if it can't help you, then you can get a call. You can get kind of registered for a call to a live person. But again, it's going to make it more difficult to get a human user, and we all know how that goes when you call like any type of like Comcast, or if you call your bank, you get 10 different things going on. You start screaming at the phone, you throw it down, you start swearing. That's how it usually goes, right? And I wish these companies would learn that. Just get a human on the phone. All right, we're going to wrap up this episode here. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. I'm losing my voice after doing 120 products for the for the Amazon Prime Day deals and stuff like that. So it's been a long week for me. I'm going to take a rest on the weekend. We will talk to you the next one. Next week, I have a couple cool products coming out. And then on top of that, what else do I have? I have another news one coming out next weekend, which will be better than this one. But I have a couple cool products coming out soon. So subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.